Have you ever looked at a culture and just thought, I don't get it? How can one group of people be so many different, contradictory things all at once? Well, during World War II, that's exactly how the United States felt about Japan. And their attempt to understand their enemy led to a classic book called The Chrysanthemum and the Sword. Today, we're going to break down the incredible puzzle it tried to solve.
Okay, let's dive right in. This is the central paradox that just baffled the West. On one hand, you have the chrysanthemum. It's this delicate, beautiful flower, a symbol of art, tranquility, and a deep, deep appreciation for aesthetics. And then, on the other hand, you have the sword. It's the symbol of the samurai, a fierce loyalty, martial valor, and a society that could be incredibly aggressive. And this is how the author of the book, an anthropologist named Ruth Benedict, summed it all up. The Japanese seemed to be living embodiments of the most extreme opposites. They were famous for their incredible politeness, their intricate etiquette, and yet they were capable of shocking aggression. They cherished beauty, but they also glorified the warrior. So what was the deal? I mean, how could a single culture be all of these things at once? Was it just some kind of massive hypocrisy? Or was there an underlying cultural logic, a hidden set of rules that Westerners just weren't seeing? That is the mystery we are going to unravel right now. So how did this whole investigation even get started? Well, the story behind the book is almost as fascinating as what's inside it. It all begins right in the middle of a global war, where understanding your enemy was quite literally a matter of life and death. Right. So after Pearl Harbor, the U.S. is fighting an enemy that it just does not understand. By 1944, they realize this is a huge problem. They need to figure out what makes the Japanese tick, not just to win the war, but to plan for what comes after. So they give Ruth Benedict this incredible, almost impossible task: explain Japanese culture. And here's the kicker. She had to do it without ever setting foot in Japan. Since she couldn't actually go there, Benedict became a kind of cultural detective. She dove into everything she could get her hands on. She watched Japanese movies, she read their novels and propaganda, and, crucially, she interviewed Japanese Americans and prisoners of war. She was hunting for the hidden patterns, the invisible grammar of the culture that made everything make sense. So, what's the first big clue she uncovers? Well, it turns out to be this foundational idea about the very structure of Japanese society, and it's a concept that really explains almost everything else. She discovers this core pillar of the culture, this idea of taking one's proper station. It's the fundamental belief that society works best when there's a clear hierarchy and everyone knows their place in it. And this wasn't seen as a bad thing, not at all. It was seen as the only way to achieve real harmony. Everyone has a place, and you find order by knowing that place and acting accordingly. And this wasn't vague, it was a very real social map. You can see the traditional order here. At the very top, the emperor. Then you have the military rulers, the lords, the warriors, and so on. Now, obviously, this has changed, but this rigid structure left a really deep cultural imprint. You always knew who you answered to and who answered to you. And get this wasn't just some abstract thing. No, it dictated your every move. The language you used, how deeply you bowed, how you talked to your older brother versus your younger sister. Literally every single social interaction was guided by this idea of your proper station in relation to the person you were with. It was this intricate, constant dance of respect. Okay, so if hierarchy is the map of society, what's the engine that actually makes it all run? Well, that brings us to our second clue, and it's a world of invisible but incredibly powerful obligations. Benedict identified this absolutely crucial concept called on. Now think of on as a debt of gratitude. But here's the twist. Unlike a loan from a bank, you can never fully pay it back. It's infinite. Just by being born, by being raised by your parents, by living in your country, you are automatically placed in a state of deep, unending indebtedness. It's a lifelong burden. And the greatest of these debts, these on, are to the emperor and to your parents. The debt you owe your parents for literally giving you life, well, that can never be repaid. And the debt to the emperor for providing a peaceful nation to live in, that's just as big. This web of obligations defines your whole life. You're never really free. You're always, always in the process of repaying. So we have a strict hierarchy and a world of infinite debt. That brings us to the final clue. What is the powerful force that actually makes people follow these rules? What compels them to fulfill these endless obligations within their proper station? The motivation is a concept called Giri. If on is the debt, Giri is the relentless social duty you have to repay it. It's this powerful moral drive to meet your obligations. But it's not just about repaying kindness. It's also about clearing your name, about protecting your reputation. To fail in your Giri is to fail as a human being. It's the hard work of managing your social ledger. And this leads to one of the most famous ideas from the book. Benedict argued that Western societies are primarily guilt cultures. Our morality is internal. You feel bad because you broke your own moral code, even if nobody saw you do it. Japan, she said, is a shame culture. Morality is external. The biggest fear isn't your inner conscience. It's the horror of other people seeing you fail. It's the fear of bringing shame on your name, your family, your community.
And this pressure is just immense. Benedict tells this incredible story about a man who was given a simple glass of iced water by a neighbor on a hot day. A tiny kindness, right? Well, this man became absolutely consumed by the need to repay this debt. He felt its weight so heavily that he had to give a gift worth way, way more, not really out of generosity, but just to clear his name and escape the shame of having an unpaid social debt.
Okay, so now we have our clues. A strict hierarchy, infinite debts, and a powerful system of duty and shame. With these pieces, we can finally go back to that original puzzle and see how it all fits together.
And here's the big reveal. The book's central thesis is that the chrysanthemum and the sword are not opposites at all. They are, in fact, perfectly logical expressions of the exact same set of cultural rules.
Think of it like this. The artist who spends years meticulously perfecting a single flower. He is fulfilling his Giri, his duty to the ideals of beauty and perfection that are expected of his station. The warrior who gives his life for his lord without a second thought, he is also fulfilling his Giri, his duty, to loyalty. Both of them, whether they're holding a flower or a sword, are driven by the exact same thing, a total devotion to fulfilling the duty that their station demands. So what looked like a crazy contradiction from the outside was actually, once you understood the internal logic of hierarchy, debt, and shame, a totally consistent system. The politeness and the aggression, the love of beauty and the embrace of violence, they all grew from the very same cultural soil.
But this leaves us with one final, really important question. This book was written in 1946, and it's been criticized for creating a timeless stereotype of a culture that has, of course, changed dramatically. And yet, you might still see echoes of these ideas in Japanese corporate life or in social etiquette. So the real question for us is how much of this is just a snapshot from a specific time, and how much of this framework still helps us understand Japan today? That's the enduring puzzle of the chrysanthemum and the sword.